And there's a story. Can you share the story about the light blue scarf that we talked about earlier, that from yesterday that was with Sonny's
Oh, the
son?
mint, it's actually
Yes.
a kind of more of a mint-colored scarf.
Okay, that's right. It's more of a green, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
very light minty green. It's a 35, 4 by 34, 100% silk scarf. So
The
that.
real deal for
That's
sure.
the real deal. It just came from a restoration company. It's 100% silk. And they can kind of date these materials because how fabrics are made over the years, how the looms make things, they know. It's kind of like the photo processing. When you process photographs, you know how they're processed and how the chemicals when they look at them. So this was probably a very early scarf. And Elvis was very religious and had a lot of belief in faith healing. He dealt with Myrna, one of the sweet inspirations. Just short story. They don't know how this happened, but before they went out to Vegas to do the shows, she went to the doctor. Nobody knew this, and they told her she had some type of cancer. Nobody was told about it. She gets out to Vegas to start, and Elvis was realizing even before the opening night, which is usually a big deal, everybody's happy, everybody's down. He asks, and to shorten the story, they basically say, hey, so-and-so, she went to the doctor, they tested her, she has cancer. He brings her into a room, lays her down, puts his hands on her, they do all this praying and talking. The next day she went back in for tests, and this is documented. There's nothing wrong with her.
Yeah, biblical
So-
laying on of hands is biblical.
It is.
For sure.
And I don't claim to, judge or opinionate people's faith, and I think it's wonderful. So, like the way Elvis and the crew put it, so either they misdiagnosed her in the beginning, or God and Elvis faith healed her. And
Right.
I'm not here to say either way. So the same thing happened with Sonny West's son, his bodyguard, is he was sick, and Elvis took this particular mint green scarf and laid it out and had his son lay down on it. He had a horrible fever. It wasn't like I don't feel good. He was clearly ill. And they put their hands on him and stuff. Similar to what they did with one of the Sweet Inspirations. And he got better. And so that scarf ended up, I don't know the total history of it, but it did end up in the collection of Sandy Pichon, who is well documented. I've read her books and things. And then it went through Hurricane Katrina and was in a poly bag with other scarves, got cross-contaminated with dirty water, dyes and inks that broke down because of the bag and the waters. And by the time I got the call about this scarf, it looked disgusting. It had almost black, almost the color of this glass, bright red and grays and all these colors. It didn't look like you'd check your oil on your car with it. And there was 2 scarves involved. Even though there's other scarves in the bag, I didn't get involved because there was clearly a red scarf because there was red dye. And it didn't come from no place. And the colors that were there don't, like when you look at your main colors that, different colors make another color. Red doesn't come out of that. So what they ended up doing is I took them to a company, and what they're trying to do is do a strip to try to remove. And we actually were afraid that we were going to strip this thing. And when I say we, I mean him. I know nothing about how they do it. I drop it off to a guy who has all these accolades of how to do this. And for several months, I've been working on it. I'm trying to strip it.
He did stuff for Princess Diana.
Yep, they've done a lot of garment restoration company for a lot of the big companies. Up in Minnesota, we had a very famous family up there that they did a lot of their stuff, and that kind of helped get people to go, oh, I'm going to go there. It's kind of like I go to a photo restoration company up in Minnesota, and I took him some items to restore, and I took him some scarves to get to this other guy, and it's kind of like he was going to help me case Ed Parker's jacket. It took him an extra month to case up Ed Parker's jacket. Why? He finally told me the truth. The longer that thing sits in his store in the way with customers coming in going, what's that? That's Elvis Presley's Karate Bodyguard's jacket. And who's framing it? And who's working on it? And who's helping store it?
Right.
And so he did the same thing with one of our quarterbacks. He was supposed to case his jersey and restore it because of, his game jersey. It's full of all that sweat. Now we got to figure out how do you take that and keep the dirt and all the beauty that it created from the game, but then saved the garment. So the same thing, it took them an extra month or two because everybody who comes in goes, that's Brett Favre's jersey from the game. And everybody goes, and so it's like, he must know what he's doing. And so I trusted them because of all those experiences I had with them to go through this company and get these things done.
And they turn out very well.
I
They're
was
beautiful.
shocked. He called me up and he said, Bob, I cannot believe this. I thought they were gonna strip down to just this mint green one that we're talking about, to nothing, to just like a white cream colored fabric that it started out on the loom with. And he did to some extent believe he overstripped it a little bit. It stripped back to its original color. And he was just beside himself, but he thought, I'm gonna try one more little process for some of these stains, because you can still faintly see some of the staining in there. And then it was starting to turn in little spots yellow. And he says, what that's doing is we're going too far, so it's kind of like, you can't unbreak it anymore, so we have to stop. This is as good as we're gonna
But
get.
you also don't want it to be too perfect, because as you mentioned, we were talking about some hats earlier. When people do knockoffs, they're perfect.
Right.
You know, fakes or real thing are not perfect. Knockoffs are perfect.
Right, and everybody, nobody, it's like trying to, forge a signature. If you make it look too good, if like Elvis Presley signing a piece of fabric, if that looks dead perfect, well, who sat there and held it that tight so that he could pen it that perfectly? He wouldn't have had that happen. It would have been very extremely rare for that to have occurred. And so that's why you just know sometimes, and I've learned that from the Graceland people, that sometimes too perfect clearly should raise flags.
Right. And this has been very informative, and I thank you so much. So now, tell us the story.
Okay, October 17th, 1976. I was working at a place, and there was this beautiful blonde nurse that I wanted to date so bad. And all of a sudden, I saw tickets, Elvis Presley. And I walked up to her work and I said, do you like concerts? Sure. Would you like to go see Elvis? How did I know? Can't Help Falling in Love was her dreamy song. Because we don't have the technology then that we have now, I didn't know he closes every show with that song. She goes, I'll go if he's going to sing that song. I said, I don't have that kind of pull. So we go, and I get tickets, and I get good tickets, because this is my first date. Stopped at my buddy's house, get rid of the jitters. When can I hold her hand, and when do I do that thing to kind of, because she's also working with me. He goes, if he starts, and this is his advice, if he starts singing that song that she loves, you can grab her hand, because then you're good to go to say, we got it. And then if she doesn't pull away, if she pulls away, you can say, hey, I'm sorry, I was just happy for you. If she doesn't pull away, there you go. So anyway, she wanted a scarf, and Elvis was up there throwing. And for the several songs, I was just, there's so many people, the Frenzy, the Police, and I wanted to go to school to be a police officer. I didn't want to go up there and get yelled at, sent back to my seat. And all of a sudden, I could just tell it was thinning a little bit, and he started doing, if you love me, let me know. And I'm watching, and it was from left to right. It was so rhythmic. And the women were just screaming and just reaching, just haphazardly. And I went, and I just kind of walked up behind this girl, and his right foot, he didn't switch his hand with his mic, Charlie'd hook, his right foot, the scarf would go, right foot, and the scarf would go. And so on that third one, as soon as his right foot was hitting, I just jumped up and just swung my arm, because I'm short, I'm not real tall. And I just swung my arm, and my hand felt nothing, but I felt this fabric hit my arm. And what had happened was, halfway, the thing just draped across my arm. And all I did is I pulled it down as tight as I could and rolled my arms around it and ducked down as if I was going to do the limbo, and started running. And these girls just started screaming at me. Those are for the girls, those are for the girls, and just nobody chased me, though, and so I felt lucky there. And I ran back to my seat, and I actually shoved it down my shirt. I'm kind of just nuzzled by her, but I didn't really grab her. And what, fortunately for me, is Elvis never saw that happen. As he threw the scarf, he turned his head. Literally, as the scarf was still midair, he turned back, and Charlie hooked, and he had hooked a white one, threw the white one, and I loved white. And then all of a sudden, he hooked the blue one, and the blue one's what I got. I got a blue one. And then the blue one went, and then a white one went. And I even later thought about it. I went, white, blue, white, blue. I could have got the white one. Why I couldn't have got the white one? I got the blue one. Quit complaining.
Exactly.
And she's passed now, so I did get the scarf back through their family. and stuff like that. And it was just, when you look at the giving nature and Elvis, what it was is, it wasn't that he was giving you, he was having so much fun. It was just, and so then we were having fun. And so it wasn't just a singing show, he made it, because even the audience, when he talked, he actually cursed at my show. And I'm fortunate enough that my show turned out to be one of the FTDs. So now I'm not listening to a similar show, I hear my show. And so it brings back those, oh, I remember this is what he was doing. When he swore at this fan early on in the show, she sitting there going, would you turn up the mic? And he goes, oh, see, honey, the mic's up, I'm just whispering. And I don't recall what else she said after that. Well, he goes, well, listen, G, idiot. And we're like, oh, Elvis Presley swore. And I forgot about that, because who would have ever thought 30 years later, my show would come out on an FTD? And that's why we probably need to find a way. And that's why I sit here today, is because people may have saw Elvis and don't know that your show that you saw, it's on CD today. So if you saw him in Wisconsin or Texas or Omaha, Nebraska, there might be a CD of your actual show. You don't have to listen to Aloha from Hawaii, which is what I lived with for many years. I listened to Aloha from Hawaii because it was a very similar show. And so the introductions of the band were similar, and that's what
So let's talk about that for a moment. You brought out something that's interesting. This is a complete aside, has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but you mentioned FTD. A lot of people don't know what that is. That's Follow That Dream.
Correct.
That's the movie. But FTD is more or less an EPE certified
Soundtrack of the show.
yeah, but it would be what would you call it if it was a fake? If they
A
put it-
bootleg.
A bootleg. So it's basically an EPE certified bootleg. Is more or less what FTDs are.
Yeah, and
It could be a board recording. It could be a
most of them are sound, and fortunately, because of the pack rat nature of Vernon, RCA, Bill Porter's skills, and
because they just
organization.
sold a hard drive with 7 shows on it.
Correct.
Today, full board recordings.
Yes.
Which I can't believe they sold for $2,000.
Right, and
Those
so.
should be FTDs.
Right, and most of these shows, there's a cassette when they do the soundboard. And I'm not a sound engineer or an expert. It's based on what they tell me when I ask them these questions. There's a cassette in there, and it records the soundboard. And these just got filed away. It's like when you look at, why do they have acetates of vocals only from 70 years ago?
Yeah.
Why? You can listen to Elvis radio now and you can hear takes 1 through 13. Like, for example, Flaming Star was originally Black Star. If you want to listen to all the takes, is everybody's, now it's a Black Star. It never happened. It's Flaming Star. But if you want to listen to the takes for Black Star, they're still there. A lot of people say, what a waste, a hog and all that, but we're fortunate we lost him so soon. We had all these soundboards, so what they do, I think they're doing it in an organized manner. I'm not going to say they're good or bad or indifferent about it. I'm happy with what they're doing because it gives us all an opportunity. A lot of people don't understand, and this is one thing I'd like them to get out of the FTD series. My wife used to say to me, Bob, I probably right now have 200 live shows. And my wife asked me, how many times do you need to hear him sing America the Beautiful, or That's All Right, or the opening vamp, or My Way, or Can't Help Falling in Love? So here's my challenge. If anybody out there has bought, purchased, or knows somebody who has the box set, similar to the 68 special they just put out, but that's the way it is box set. I believe it has 8 CDs and 2 DVDs in it. Listen to 5 and 6, disc 5 and 6 from that, which is the dinner show and the midnight show for, I believe it's August 11th of '69. He was in the best mood, giggling, giddy, having fun with the fans, and all of a sudden 2 nights later, he's just crabby as hell. And so you get to, anybody can listen to an artist, anybody can go buy a CD of take 32 of something, and it's a piece of art. It's like a painting. I want to see the first 3 tries he painted that airplane. Not the final product. I see what he's an artist. It better look good when he's done. Same thing if a dry cleaner. If I'm gonna have him iron a tablecloth, the better he's smooth. That's what he's supposed to do. I wanna see him get there. And so when you listen to all these different shows and his mood, I just bought an FTD yesterday. Doggone, I've got a memory that just goes bad. But he sung the song in Aloha from Hawaii. Anyway, they were playing that when I was coming down here. And I heard him sing this song, and I went, oh my God, I got to buy this FTD. So I did, because of how he sang this song. I've already got him singing it probably 10 other ways, but when I hear this. So if people can afford it, what it does is it gets you to understand Elvis as a human being, not as an artist. And so I think they've done very well putting these CDs and FTDs together so that people can get a better understanding of Elvis the man and his moods and how he was as an artist. And the other thing is, frankly, he was at the peak of his career, and when he dies, it's pretty hard to get him to record anymore. He's dead. And so what you have to do is like, hey, we got all these soundboards. Why don't we go ahead and he's recording another album because he already recorded it 10 years ago. We'll go ahead and put that out, and it's working. I mean, he just hit top 40 with Blue Christmas.
Yep.
40 years after he died.
Yeah,
And so
it's amazing.
And so that's what helps inspire me, meeting the other fans and dealing with them. And that's why I want to help people, so that if you have something from him or from that era, or you want to get something from the era, it is attainable. And if you do have it, you need to care for it, because it's not just yours, it's a part of history. And that's why I've sold some of my items. It isn't because I need the money. There are times when I just think, you know what, it's time for another fan to enjoy this as I have for all these years since I saw him, because most of the people I've seen here, as usual, never got to see Elvis Presley. And so it's fun when they ask me, you know, what was it like and things like that, when I've seen Neil Diamond, Garth Brooks, the Beach Boys. You know, I didn't even realize when I was a kid, I saw the Beach Boys a couple months before I saw Elvis, and the Beach Boys were being managed by Jerry Schilling at the time. You talk about how small this world is. So it's neat to come down here and learn all these things and interact with other fans, and then offer your help or your knowledge, because there might be someone at home right now that's got a beautiful scarf, real or not, sitting in a poly bag going, oh my gosh, I got to get that out of there. And then if I can help one person not destroy a garment, it's great.
That's right. So, man, I appreciate it, Bob. This was way more than I expected, but it's great. I'm gonna probably break it up into several pieces.
Well, you have to.
And but man, it's awesome. So, friends, you see what going on a date and catching one scarf did.
Yeah.
Over 40 years later, we're sitting here talking about it, and
It's as fun today as it was 40 years ago.
It's
41.
Yes, sir.
It was that. It's that indelible into your mind and your heart and the excitement every time I come down here and I just walk up to the gate. And walk up to the meditation gardens and I sit down. So in close, today a woman walked up to me out of the blue. I don't know her from Sikkim to Sunday, and said, "Is this you?" And she held up a snapshot of me kneeling at the meditation gardens all by myself, because I come in off season so I can be alone, because it just helps me rejuvenate my life. And everybody has their different things that they do. And I'm just kneeling there right at the base of his marker, just praying, and just for whatever reason, this woman just felt that she should take a picture of me. And it was 2 years ago, Elvis Week. And today, while I was sitting here waiting to come into the auction, she came and tapped on the window of my car and said, "Is this you?" And she's got this photograph in her hand. She says, "I wanted you to have it." And so those are the things that Elvis fans, that mean so much to me, and it's fun to do.
It's a large family and a small family at the same time.
It is.
All right. God bless you, my
All right,
friend.
thank you very
Appreciate
much.
Yes,
All right,
sir.
great.